the concept of failure in business, because she is a failure in business. Nevertheless, she lives on planet Meghan.
Confident in the partner that I have, and I feel really proud of the team that I have. So that's not an option.
Tonight, a royal-scale PR drama, product flops, and a public persona that loudly insists failure simply doesn't exist where Meghan Markle stands. That's the headline version of the story we'll unpack. Meghan's claim that nothing is a failure because you always learn. But headlines and soundbites live beside wrong reports and sold-out jars that may not be what they seem. Stay with me. We'll trace Meghan's moves, her covers, and the gaps between her rhetoric and measurable results.
Will it
It's
be?
like, I think I've heard it's pancake mix. So like,
Are you serious? No, I wouldn't put it past her. I mean,
She says failure isn't an option because every setback is a lesson, and that sounds noble until you line Meghan's words up with the data you can actually see. When Meghan's ventures launch with fanfare and then vanish from the charts, when Meghan's podcasts spike and then drop out of sight, the learning claim looks less like humility and more like a shield. So, tonight we ask, when Meghan controls the channels, can she also control the scorecard?
and even if they could, they don't particularly want to, because nobody wants to pay $14 for scam jam that isn't even jam.
Take the product plays. Meghan's jam jars, pancake mix teases, limited drops that sold out, or didn't, and price tags people balked at. Scarcity can be strategy. Scarcity can be an excuse. If customers refuse to pay a premium or can't actually buy what Meghan advertised, marketing alone won't save the product. We'll separate clever scarcity from smoke and mirrors and watch how Meghan's choices shape the story she can credibly tell.
that global humiliation that was getting the boot from Spotify because the Lemonada podcast was as miserable.
Then there's the PR playbook. Meghan moves to platforms where metrics disappear. Podcasts that got axed by Spotify, shows on streaming services with private numbers. That's convenience dressed as strategy. When Meghan's successes are declared on channels with no public analytics, wins become claims rather than verifiable outcomes. Hiding engagement isn't just a tactic, it rewrites accountability. We'll examine why Meghan's choice of platform matters more than the press release suggests.
Miserable reaction, which is, it's other people's fault.
Yeah, exactly right, exactly right.
Other people lying about me.
Yeah, I'd ask people to tell the truth.
At the center of the storm is Meghan's line about truth. I would ask people to tell the truth. It's striking, but it collides with reporting that internal staff complained about Meghan's behavior, triggering an investigation that was never published. Why withhold a report? Why keep damaging information in reserve? We'll look at how an unpublished inquiry about Meghan becomes a weapon and how the prospect of a leak changes the dynamic between her public and private narratives.
Now, that is a direct reference, quite clearly, to the palace staff back when she was here in Britain complaining about
Keeping a damaging report about Meghan's secret is a psychological maneuver with real consequences. It freezes critics in uncertainty and preserves plausible deniability for her. Silence can be more corrosive than exposure because it breeds speculation and suspicion. But secrecy alone doesn't create the media pylons. Meghan's behavior fuels attention. We'll map how sealed files and repeated allegations together shape her public perception over time.
And there's a report that exists, Meghan.
Well,
it is
yeah.
buried in the vault, and if you do not be careful, it will start to leak out.
Multiple deep dives from outlets like Hollywood Reporter and Vanity Fair painted a repeated picture of Meghan, tantrums, distressed staff, and workplace strain. When reputable long-form investigations echo similar claims, patterns emerge that go beyond gossip. We'll consider when recurring anecdotes about Meghan become a coherent portrait, and why sustained investigative attention signals more than a fleeting scandal.
You know, so
it becomes a storyline the public can follow and judge.
They lied. Well, you know, if she carries on like this...
The predictable response from Meghan is to call it all lies. They're lying about me. Denial is a reflex, but there's a point where behavior, not words, tells the story. Firing PR teams, shifting platforms, and pacing public appearances all speak. Tonight, we'll test whether Meghan's rhetoric about truthfulness lines up with her observable actions, and whether constant rebuttal undermines rather than repairs her reputation.
Reporter, then Vanity Fair, 8,000-word investigation claiming that she was the most...
Look at the podcast trajectory. Meghan's pronounced launches, celebrity guests, then a rapid fade. Archetypes and a second series both debuted with attention and soon dropped in the charts or were paused. When Meghan declares, "I refuse to fail," while shows falter, that contradiction becomes the headline. Platform choice and engagement metrics often tell a different story than Meghan's press statements, and that mismatch is where credibility is won or lost.
You don't have to explain yourself, and you should never have to explain yourself. While we're listening to an entire podcast episode where she's trying to explain herself.
Authenticity is sold as Meghan's virtue. Don't explain yourself, be real. But continuous explanation is exactly what we keep hearing. Long defenses, clarifying interviews, and repeated justifications. That's Meghan's authenticity paradox. The more she insists she doesn't need to explain, the more she ends up explaining. Audiences are less convinced by denials than they are by consistent behavior that matches the words. Name-dropping is another Meghan currency. Mentors, godparents, secret A-list friends. Reputation by association. It buys credibility until it looks like a shield rather than proof. Meghan's claims of connections can be persuasive, but they're not the same as influence. We'll interrogate whether Meghan's social proof signals genuine standing or substitutes for it when the real proof, measurable success, is absent. A striking contradiction appears around monetization. Meghan's complaints about others profiting from images of her children or her outfits sit uneasily beside curated affiliate lists and product tie-ins. Monetize when it benefits Meghan, object when someone else does the same. That double standard reveals where brand instincts and moral posturing collide. We'll parse what that says about Meghan's control and hypocrisy in her public messaging. A striking contradiction appears around monetization. Meghan's complaints about others profiting from images of her children or her outfits sit uneasily beside curated affiliate lists and product tie-ins. Monetize when it benefits Meghan, object when someone else does the same. That double standard reveals where brand instincts and moral posturing collide. We'll parse what that says about Meghan's control and hypocrisy in her public messaging. Platform selection matters for Meghan. Netflix specials with private viewing figures and Instagram with hidden likes are safe harbors for reputations under strain. Moving to closed platforms is not accidental, it's strategic. When Meghan's engagement numbers become optional, success becomes a narrative she can tell without proof. That tactic buys her breathing room but costs credibility because unverifiable claims are fragile under scrutiny. On what I call Planet Meghan, critics become haters and negative headlines become orchestrated attacks. That galvanizes a defensive tribe, a loyal echo chamber that protects Meghan's narrative. Echo chambers amplify her message until they either collapse under contrary evidence or become self-sustaining myths. We'll show how Meghan's tribal dynamics inflate resilience for a while, then quietly shrink when evidence accumulates. Beneath the spectacle is Meghan's human story. The choices that led to leaving roles, to shifting lives, and to the fallout for family and public duties. Friends and former colleagues point to things Meghan left behind: affection, responsibility, tradition. Regret may be private, but it feeds the public narrative about what Meghan gained and what she sacrificed. We'll weigh the human cost in a story that otherwise reads like reputation management. Attention becomes Meghan's currency, and then her captor. When her life is optimized for spectacle, product drops, podcast moments, interviews, substance is in danger of atrophy. A carefully choreographed Meghan brand can deliver headlines, but not always lasting impact. We'll measure spectacle against substance and ask which matters more when reputation is the commodity being traded. The rhetorical playbook is familiar. Meghan blames PR, blames staff, blames the haters. But repeated deflection erodes credibility. Tactics like selective disclosure, strategic leaks, and narrative reframing can buy Meghan time, but they also create patterns. We'll map those tactics and show why audiences eventually demand something more durable than talking points: evidence, change, and accountability. So, what does authentic learning from failure actually look like? For Meghan, public humility matters. Admit mistakes, outline concrete changes, and allow outcomes to be seen. Learning that's private and unverified reads like a talking point. Learning that's public and demonstrable reads like accountability. Tonight, we'll contrast Meghan's ideal of visible course correction with the repeated cycles of claim and counterclaim we keep seeing. If Meghan's goal is to rebuild trust, here's a straightforward blueprint. Publish transparent metrics, allow independent audits where appropriate, apologize when warranted, and let product or program data be judged openly. It's messy and uncomfortable, but honesty can convert skeptics more reliably than spin. We'll ask which costs Meghan more in the long run: frank admissions now or prolonged reputation repair later. We close with a core takeaway. For Meghan, controlling narrative without controlling facts is a fragile strategy. When she builds a reputation on unverifiable claims, she trades stability for spin. Authenticity isn't a slogan. It's a program of consistent, observable behavior that matches her words. In that mismatch lies the damage we've traced tonight. So to Meghan, and to those shaping her headlines and managing her brand, stop demanding truth from others and start demonstrating it yourselves. Watch where Meghan builds her narratives and insist on metrics you can verify. For viewers, stay skeptical, check the evidence, and reward accountability. If you want more deep dives like this one, tell us what you want analyzed next, but until then, keep asking for the receipts.